All right, so I'm going to do a little sales training. I'm going to show you how I review my own calls. I've already started this one, but I'll go through my process here and show you, and hopefully you get a lot of value from this method. I know I do. There's parts of the call where I'm like, ah, man, like why did I say that? And basically what I'm doing here is rewriting my call. So let me share my screen. I freaking, all right, there it is. Uno momento. All right, here we go. So I'm already down here. Basically, what I do first and foremost is copy my call transcript on Fathom into a Google Doc blank. Um, oh, it actually should. That's cool. Okay, so I kind of skip down here, go through the frame, biggest challenge, and then I've already highlighted it here. These are like my notes. So this guy goes, yeah, the biggest challenge he says right now, I'm just more, just more figuring out the business itself. I'm still very new in the business. I've only been working, this year is really my first year in business in the Delaware scene. I've worked with news stations before, but as a sole freelancer, this is my first year. So I'm just kind of figuring it out, what the market's like here, what the work's like here, and like what the clients are like. And so I said, okay, so you're just trying to figure it all out. What I probably should have said is like, okay, so you're trying to figure out the business. I mean, what exactly are you trying to figure out? I mean, or what is it about what the clients are like that you're not able to figure out? Um, here's another way. Okay, so you haven't figured out the business yet. What's happening in the business right now? In other words, like, what's going on? We want to clearly clarify the problem, right? Okay, so because you're not able to figure out the business, you're trying to figure out the business, like what's going on? Are you not getting clients? Are you not making sales? Are you not figuring out how to scale it? Like, I literally don't know. But let's keep going here. Um, okay. So he goes, yeah, pretty much. Here's another thing. He goes, I go, so you're just trying to figure it all out? He goes, yeah, pretty much. Um, hold on. So he goes, yeah, I grew up in Delaware. I'm like, okay, he mentioned like I'm trying to figure it out here in Delaware. I'm like, so did you do it before in a different city or state? And he's like, well, I grew up here. I've just worked under different companies. I've never done it myself until this year. So I'm just trying to figure out the challenges now. I'm trying to figure out how to do it myself, how to book people and stuff like that. I've booked a few jobs this year and I've gotten to the market. I just want to further expand on that, really. So there's some topics that are coming up here. You know, why was it? What happened this year that made you start? Long story short, he got fired. What do you mean by figure it out? Like what are the challenges? What challenges are you having with booking people? Okay, and you said you've gotten clients, but you want to expand on that further. What's going on now in terms of your clients? How many clients do you have? How many did you work with? These are all like different topics that I could start exploring. Which one's the most painful for this guy? If I was looking at this list, I mean, I'd probably go with either the challenges with booking people or basically how many clients he's getting now and what's the problem with that. Those are probably the two most relevant things. So I said, oh, I guess the challenge is right now that you're not getting enough clients and you're just trying to figure it all out. He goes, pretty much. I would, I didn't catch it here, but generally speaking, if they go pretty much, I would say, well, is there anything you would add to that? So I wrote that here. Okay, so cool. So how has it been going? This is a broad strokes question. He goes, oh yeah, like you said, I've done a few jobs, pretty good so far. I've done a few weddings and I've done a few, some jobs with landscapers. So it's been kind of here and there, but nothing really stable yet. So I highlighted nothing really stable. The new topic is stability. Okay, got it. So here's what I said. Got it. So here and there, a state, you said, okay, so here and there, it's stable. In a month, let's say last month, October, how many jobs did you do last month? Uh, yeah, so it's an okay question, so I didn't really add anything. There's better ways to actually to phrase this question. Okay, so has the business is not or is unstable, right? So it's not nothing really stable. Okay, so the business is unstable right now. In October, how many clients did you work with? How about September? No, not how much September. How about September? Okay, and how about August? How does that quarter compare to the rest of the year since you've started? I could easily I could easily ask those questions. See, this is what I'm doing. So, I'm just going to keep going here. So, I think last month I did, I think, three or four. I'm like, okay, three or four. Okay, yeah. And here's my question. And then I guess what types of jobs were they? Were they weddings? Were they like dot dot dot? He goes, I did a wedding last month and I did like three landscaping jobs, just pictures and video. He goes, okay. I go, okay. He goes, but mostly content-based jobs. My question to him was, got it. So how do your prices work? Instead, I wrote, okay. And there's two options here. Okay, and what did you charge for those four jobs last month? What did you, or okay, in total, how much did you earn from those four jobs last month? Uh, it depends. Like the first question, he might be like, well, this one was 1,000, this one was 500, this one was 200, this one was like 800. I could just like, okay, so in total, how much did you earn? Like we're just got kind of like getting to the point. Um, and then I did and then comparing that. Okay, so when somebody mentions my business is inconsistent or it's not stable, you want to see what has the progression been like, which is why you would go back a few months. And then I have this question here, which is like, okay, so what's going on in the business or in your life, which means you need more stability from the business, which is another way of saying like, dude, like what's the problem? What consequences is the business being unstable having in your life? Oh, well, dude, yeah, I have a fiance, we live in a shitty apartment, we want to move, we want to pay off debt, da da da, all this stuff's happening, but my job isn't paying that much, which I work this job and my business isn't making any money, so I'm kind of like, struggling. Like it's an open-ended way of getting further into the conversation. Um, so anyway, he goes like, "What do you charge for weddings?" He says some prices, da 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 da. He also mentions that he's just trying to get into the market before I bump my prices up because I don't have much work to show. So I'm like, okay, that's a new topic. You need to get into the market to bump up your prices. Like, well, what do you mean by getting into the market? What does that even mean? That's like something I could have asked. Um, and I go, okay, so that's one of the issues that's holding you back because you don't have a big enough, I guess, portfolio. He goes, yeah, pretty much. Again, he says pretty much. I don't really have a professional photo portfolio. A lot of my stuff is kind of based off away from what I'm trying to do. I've done a lot of short film in the past, da da da. You know, he's like, I'm just trying to figure out from a professional side of it. It's hard to do this when you're not like listening to the video, but um, I'm like, okay, so what exactly have you been trying to figure out when it comes to the professional side of video? Here we are again. Like, if you recall, the very first part is he's like, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. I didn't clarify exactly what he's trying to figure out, you know? And because of that, I'm starting to data gather on the wrong things. I'm going into standard data gathering mode, which I wrote here. I'm not clarifying the problem. I start data gathering on the wrong things, right? So um, I'm like, okay, so if my math is right, if you did a wedding and a couple jobs last month, that was like what, 2,000, 2,500, something like that? He goes, yeah, something like that. Yeah. Horrible. But like the conversation could have went like, okay, so what exactly are you trying to figure out? Well, how to book more clients. Okay, how many clients did you get last month? What about the month before? How many the month before? Okay, where did those clients come from? How did you get them? What did you charge for those clients? Okay, so you made this much, and then this much, and then this much. Okay, after your expenses, how much do you have left over? This much. Okay, what are you doing with that money? I'm doing it. I'm putting it away. What are you putting it away for? How much are you reinvesting back into the business? Who knows? But um, now I guess at this point I'm just trying to figure out like how much money is this guy even making? So I do ask him, okay, so what about, I guess, how does that compare to the previous? You said you've been doing this for a year. So how does that compare to the previous couple months? Is much up? Is it up? Is it down? A little bit up. Yeah. So I'm trying to chunk down into, okay, so in a very bad way, I've asked the question. It's like, well, how does that compare to blah, blah, blah? This is a horrible way of asking the question, but it's essentially like what I meant to say is this. This is what I want to do. I want to rewrite my sales script. Okay, um, so how much exactly did you make in October from the business? Got it. Gotcha. How about September? September. Okay. And how about August? Okay, so you made, let's say the number is 4,000, you know, that way he's not going to he kind of weasels out here and doesn't really answer my question. Okay, so you made 4,000, but you got to be more specific with your language, with your questions. Um, so when you got, so it's like he's like, I get a job when I can. I'm working full time in retail right now. And he doesn't really ask me how many jobs he got previous, or he doesn't answer how many jobs he got previously. It's like I don't have all the time in the world to basically right now do all the jobs. It's just when I'm available to do the jobs, I do the jobs. Like, okay, is it the fact that you can't figure out how to get clients, or is it the fact that you're too busy to get clients? He goes, but since I have bills and I've got a fiance and we've got to, live, I'm still working full time right now in retail. I'm like, yeah, he didn't answer my question chunking down. He deflected. It must be painful. It must be embarrassing or painful that, he's not getting results in his business. And I wrote a question that I could have asked here. Okay, so you've got a fiance and a retail job and bills, obviously, and an unstable video business. What's going on in your life, which means you need to grow the video business now, though? Which is just another way of like him leading me to whatever topic matters the most to him, the reason why he's on the call, without me just straight up asking, well, dude, like, what are your goals or something? I go, oh, okay, cool. I was going to ask about your like situation. So I assume that you live with your fiance now. You go, yeah, yeah, we live in an apartment together right now. But it's just kind of like I want to start working towards getting into full-time media and kind of out of the 9 to 5 life and more into something that I actually enjoy. Um, okay, so he wants to get out of a job. I'm like, okay, so what don't you like about what you do now? How often does that happen? How often do you feel that way? You know, was there something in particular that happened recently which made you want to move away from that now? So I could go into that. Or I could say, okay, got it. So you've not been making any significant money with the business. You're doing a job you don't enjoy. You're living a mediocre existence with your fiance. And it's been this way for a year. I mean, how do you feel about your situation in general? Like, what's that doing to you? I'm like, going to take all the context that I'm getting. I kind of like added some of this living a mediocre existence. You know, I like when you stack the context with this and when you ask it, it's like wham. It's like they have to give you like a good answer. It's just like, well, dude, if he tells me it sucks, I'm like, okay, so like, what do you mean? Like, what's it doing to you? Like, it sucks how? Like, how do you feel about it? If he tells me it's fine, well, then like that's the problem. It's like, well, dude, like your life sucks, and you're not even like acknowledging it. You're repressing how much your life sucks. Um, but this is another good way. How do you feel about your situation in general? Like, it's still not a leading question, but at this point of the call, gotten enough data points on this guy to kind of realize that, um, yeah, I mean, he's not making much money. He works a shitty job, has a fiance, um, lives in Delaware. You know what I mean? So then I said, yeah, I mean, I got it. So obviously everybody's different, but I guess is it Is it just because you don't really enjoy the retail that's prompting you to do that? I'm like, we got to strike that out. And then I just wrote down, okay, so what is it about your job that makes you want to leave? Because, oh, I'm not really interested just because I've always been interested in media. I went to school for it, da da da. But since I was like middle school, I've been doing media. I learned Premiere Pro. It's something I've always been interested in. That's where I want my life to be at the point. But retail has been something that I was good at in the past, so it's helped pay the bills. So I said, okay, yeah. So with your job, and I asked him like straight up, I ignore all this stuff, and I'm just like, okay, so how much do you make right now? Which is what happens when you we're not even clear on the actual problem. I didn't label the problem, clarify the problem. But these are some of the questions I added after he said all this stuff. It's like, think about it. This guy loves media. He loves video. He loves content, but he's stuck working a 9 to 5 because he can't figure out a business. I mean, I could start turning the screws on. You know, these are questions which are going to start holding the mirror up of like, well, why haven't you been able to figure out how to pay the bills with something you actually enjoy? Why do you continue to settle for a retail job just because you're good at it? Because this is a massive, massive rationalization. It's like, well, I'm working the retail job because I'm good at it. It's like, yeah, but I mean, it's not making you happy. You hate it. You're not making any money. You're broke. Like, what are you doing to make that a reality? I'd have to add in the context here. What are you doing to make uh working to make what are you doing to make what are you doing to make how would I say this? Doing media full time a reality, uh, reality for you. And if he goes nothing, or if he goes this and that, and then I'm going to just ask him, why isn't it working? Here's another one. Well, how does it feel to have such a strong interest in something yet not be able to do it full time? Like, these are just questions I could just start throwing to start turning up the heat and get some emotion out of this guy. So anyway, I ask, okay, so how much are you making income wise? I'm like, this is a random leading question. It has nothing to do with what he just said. I believe I was trying to see how much he would need to replace his job. So I should have chunked down into how he feels about the job. Why doesn't he like it? What does he earn from the job now? How many clients would it take to replace that right now? What's he been doing to find those clients? That would have been a better line of questioning to just, this was very abrupt. This is a random, abrupt leading question. And he goes, with my job and the business, it usually ends up being about 3 grand a month. I said, you said three? I'm like, okay. Then I guess after 2 year bills, that I assume that you're splitting with your fiance, right? He goes, yeah, yeah. I usually come out, have sometimes an extra grand to myself, sometimes lowered. Depends on what. It usually depends, but usually I have about a grand to myself after I'm done the normal bills. So I was basically wondering, like, how much are your bills, or how much do you have left over after your bills? He goes, a grand. I should have said, and what are you doing with the money that you, okay, so I say, what are you doing with the money I've left over? I try to save it when I can. Sometimes I'll go out every once in a while, but I try not to mostly just save and reinvest into myself when I can. I say, gotcha, man. So saving, like, have you been reinvesting back into your business? Okay. A better thing to say would be like, okay, and how much do you have saved right now? Because you might hear this and think, wow, that's like really digging deep, but it's part of us both understanding the severity of this guy's situation. I mean, bro, like, you're making 3 grand a month. You got $1,000 extra that you're putting away. Do you have $3,000 in the bank? Or do you have, 25,000 or 50,000 or 100,000? I don't know, but it's like, contextually, those are different. If it's a little number or a really big number, tells me a lot about the person. Um, like, have you been reinvesting back into your business? This is like another bad question. So this is how far I got. So, um, so it's a first of all, it's a closed-ended question. Have you been reinvesting back into the business? Yes or no? Okay, what have you been reinvesting back into the business? Right? What have you been reinvesting, or is that even a good question? What have you been reinvesting back into the business? What have you been reinvesting in to grow the business? I mean, I don't even think this is a relevant question. But what I'm doing is like, is this question, first of all, even necessary? Second of all, is there a better way to ask it more succinct, more brevity, more to the point, better framing? Like this is what we're doing. He goes, yeah, yeah. When getting camera gear and stuff and putting money aside if I want to start doing the ads and stuff like that. But this year, a lot of gear because I found stuff useful. It's the job. Now it's at the point where I want to go further and invest into myself in a way. So the obvious question is why now? What changed? Um, Adding more context to that. Okay, so what exactly has changed for you to want to start reinvesting into yourself and the business now? Or someone will, it depends. Like if I want to add context, I would say this one. If I just want to be like, well, why now? I would just say it like that. I'm like, okay, so you have the gear now. Now you just need the clients from the something. Okay, so it's starting to like lump his stuff he's saying and mine together. But anyway, so okay, so when it comes to getting clients, I guess you'd have time as one of the factors, which is if you're working full time and you have a fiance, I can see that being a factor. But outside of time, I guess what's been the issue as far as getting a consistent flow of clients for yourself? Hmm. Honestly, some of that's on me if I'm just being honest, just saying consistent just because Okay, classic mistake that I did is is I'm basically asking him a why question before I know what. Okay. Um, what's been the issue as far as getting a consistent flow of clients? Okay, a better way to ask it. Okay, so what are you currently doing to get clients? How long have you been doing it that way? Okay, I want to get into the numbers. How many DMs are you sending? How many people are you reaching out to? What are you doing? It's all just word of mouth. Okay, are you doing anything to increase your word of mouth? Are you doing anything other than word of mouth? Are you posting? Are you DMing people? Are you cold calling? Are you knocking on doors? Are you running ads? Are you posting I don't know. Are you cold emailing people? Um, how long have you been doing that way? Like chunk down into the numbers if relevant. Chunk down into the numbers or inputs and then get the outputs. So let's say he says I'm doing cold DMs. Example, I'm doing cold DMs. I might say, okay, how many cold DMs do you send per day? I send 20. Got it. And got it. And how long have you been sending 20 cold DMs a day for? He says 8 weeks, whatever. Okay, so like 7 times 20, that's 140 times 8, that's 800 and that's 1,000. Okay, so let's say that's 1,130 cold DMs sent. How many meetings or whatever I want to do? How many leads did you get from that? Or I would probably ask you, how many meetings with prospective clients came from those 130, 1,130 cold DMs? You would probably say like one, zero, whatever. Okay. It's like okay. He says, let's say like one. Okay, did they buy? No. It's just like, got it. So essentially, now that we know that doesn't work, why do you think? I mean, I can either go into like, why do you think it hasn't worked? Which might lead to him going, well, maybe I just got to do more, which doesn't really move the conversation forward. I could go into, well, hey, like, is it time to try something else? Where are you at now in terms of like continuing to do that? I was like, okay, so it hasn't, it basically has not worked. Why do you think that is? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, if you had to take a wild guess, well, maybe people just don't buy from cold DMs. Okay, so what do you want to, what are you going to do differently? Well, I think I should run ads. Oh, you do? Okay. Why do you say that? Well, if I have people coming to me, well then da 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 it'd be easier. Okay, that makes sense. So what do you need to do in order to run ads? Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. I've never done them before. Okay, well, I mean, do you want to figure that out yourself or do you want to get some help? I mean, it's a very leading question, but anyway, this is like there's probably a better non-leading way to ask that. Why do you think it didn't work? Anyway, like get the data. Get the data, Ben. We're only at 8 minutes and 45 seconds here. Anyway, he starts getting into some ownership. He's like, honestly, it's just on me if I'm just being honest. Just staying consistent just because, I'm with working full time, just getting more, I'm only 22, so I'm just getting more adult responsibilities, right? So just like living every day, sometimes I can get inconsistent. So that's partially on me, but some of it is also just finding where to find the clients. I'm like, okay. A lot of it's been word of mouth right now. Some has been from social media. I'm just trying to figure out where are the clients coming from mainly, what to focus on when finding clients. I'm like, okay, so I guess there's two things. Obviously, the first one is the consistency. The second one is, I guess, the strategy of where to get the clients. Um, I guess this is me trying to label this problem, but one of them is uh, one of them is like, I'm just, is it, are you just an inconsistent person? Is that like a mindset issue, or is that because you don't know how to get them, therefore you're not really putting in any effort, right? It's like if you don't know how to get in shape, you just don't do anything. Of course, you're being inconsistent. But anyway, so it seems like I just kind of jumped off. Let's see. Um, so we kind of changed topics here, which is me starting to talk about his lack of consistency. I'm like, okay, so I'm curious, in your opinion, what do you feel like is behind the lack of consistency? Um, Not the best question. Because then I'm like, okay, like what happens? Which, is it just like, oh, I don't know, Battlefield 6 comes out and you play Xbox for a month, or like what's going on? See, this is a bad question because, first of all, what do you feel like is behind the lack of consistency? And so I asked two questions, like what's going on? What's behind the lack of consistency? Like you got to ask one question. But so like come to think of it now, it's just like, okay, what do you I could have asked him a few things. Number one, what do you feel like you need to fix the lack of consistency and to fix not having the strategy of finding clients? And if he goes, well, I need a mentor or a coach, someone to hold me accountable and someone to show me what to do, then I could be like, okay, got it. When did you make that realization? Oh, it's been XYZ months ago. Okay. And how many mentors have you reached out to? None. Like, why not? Oh, well, because da 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 da. Like so the conversation could have went down that route. Um, Another way is like, okay, so because I could have probably went into cost of inaction, which is like, okay, so let's just figure out how long the lack of consistency and how long the not knowing how to get clients has been a problem for. Has that been the whole year? Yeah. Okay. So to use your numbers, you worked with 4 clients last month, you made 2 grand, right? How many clients total could the business work with without changing your delivery, without hiring people? How many clients total could you work with? He might go, oh, yeah, probably 10 a month. Okay. And how much revenue would that be if you were charging your biggest package? Oh, yeah, I mean, $1,000. So I make 10K per month. Okay. 10K per month is like what you could be doing. I mean, outside of consistency and the strategy of knowing how to work with how to get more clients booked. Is there anything else that you feel like is holding you back from getting to that 10K per month? And he might say, yes, there it's this, or he might say, no, it's just those two things. I'm like, okay, so in other words, the the business should have done, your business has basically lost $10,000 a month in opportunity costs over the past year. That's $120,000 per month because you're not consistent, because you don't have the strategy. Um, it's just like, well, how do you feel about that? First of all, like, well, what's going through your head when you hear that number? I guess why haven't you figured out those two things? I'm curious then, like at some point I'm going to tie it into what we do, but anyway, this is, you know, these are like when you go through this exercise, um, you start first of all seeing the stupid things you do, but you start thinking, oh, you know what? I could have asked this, I could have asked this and this and this and kind of like tied it all together, but I just didn't. So anyway, I feel like this has gone on long enough. I for sure see where I went wrong in this call. I think I'll go on a little bit further, but um, yeah, not digging into these two things. Uh, I mean, I could have, and say there's no consistency, like what's going on. We don't want the call to go on forever, which is why at a certain point, I'm not trying to be a therapist. I'm trying to like do like, well, like what, let's get you to take ownership of how bad your situation is. It's your fault. What do you want to do about it? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want our help? If you do, okay. When do you want our help? Why now? Was there something that changed which made you go like, enough's enough. Like it's time for me to get out of my situation. What was it? That makes sense. Why do you feel like what we do is the thing that you need? Okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, how much longer do you want to wait to get the help you need to get out of your situation so you can quit your shitty job that you hate, so that you can move out of your shitty apartment with your fiance, so that you can get a car, you can pay off your debt? These are all things that came up later, but how much longer do you want to wait to do that? Anyway, let's just wrap it there. It's starting to get painful for me to read my own conversations, but hopefully you've learned something. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM and we'll talk to you later.